This episode is sponsored by State Farm. Choices are great. Like with your podcasts, you get to choose what you want to listen to. And State Farm believes insurance should work the same way. That's why the State Farm Personal Price Plan helps you get the coverage you want at an affordable price and a policy that helps cover what you value most. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Call or go to statefarm.com today to create your State Farm Personal Price Plan. Prices vary by state. Options selected by customer. Availability and eligibility may vary.
Reese's Peanut Butter Cups are the greatest, but let me play devil's advocate here. Let's see. So, no, that's a good thing. That's definitely not a problem. Reese's, you did it. You stumped this charming devil.
The Purple Mafia with your host, Paladino Joey.
Well, we'll see. The doctors would disagree, but what do they know?
So let's just say that you'll pay me because it's in your interest to pay me.
Is it worth it? I mean, you've won. Do you want to wipe everybody out?
I don't feel I have to wipe everybody out, Tom. Just my enemy. That's all. My father taught me many things. He taught me, keep your friends close, but your enemies closer.
These are wonderful things that we've achieved, and there's no limit to where we can go from here.
Welcome to the family here on Purple Mafia, which is available on thesportstuff.com and on iTunes. I appreciate each and every one of you always for downloading and listening to this show. This is episode number 93 of the aforementioned Purple Mafia. I am your host, Joey Awajan, or Paladino Joey, as mentioned by our executive producer, Dylan Richardson, at the beginning of the introduction of this show. Today is September the 6th, 2011. We are just a few days away from the 10-year anniversary of 9/11, and also, of course, the season opener against the San Diego Chargers. Well, you could say this is the season preview for the Minnesota Vikings, season preview for the NFL, but mostly the Vikings. We're going to do a little NFC North preview. We're going to make some predictions about how the NFC North will do, and I'll then do later on in the show, I will end the show with an official prediction segment of how teams in the NFC North will finish and which two teams will go to the conference finals on each side of the NFC and the AFC. The two teams then that will face off in the Super Bowl and the single Super Bowl champion. I will do that, of course, at the end. Bouncing around a little bit. Yes, I apologize that I did not have game reviews for the preseason. I just wasn't as available as I've been in years past during that particular time. Schedule's getting in the way, not being able to work around it, and I deeply, deeply apologize. We're going to definitely improve on that, especially coming into the regular season. I mean, that's a must. It's an absolute must. I mean, if I'm going to be doing Purple Mafia, I better be getting behind the mic. So thanks again for your patience, all of you. Unfortunately, no call-ins again to Purple Mafia. It's a little bit of a bummer. I missed you guys out there a lot. Anthony from LA, Brent Jacobson, others. Hey, Sebastian Balls, I'd like you to call in if you can. Tony Coleman, Dan Doro. I mean, you guys are absolutely out there. A lot of you are local. Except Anthony from LA, really. Almost most of you are local that post on the Facebook page. Call in 209-736-7877, 209-736-7877. Would appreciate it so very much if you were to call in. It is a voicemail. Do treat it as such. Remember to do it that way. You call in and all that good stuff. There's been some revamping to the sportstuff.com front page. It looks very cool, actually. A nice job by executive producer, creator, and webmaster Dylan Richardson, as mentioned earlier. He did a nice job on the front page of the sportstuff.com. It's a pretty cool little update. Give it a look-see. It looks pretty sharp. Don't forget to join those message boards. Click on the TSS boards button, and then you pretty much go from there. So really the gist of the show today is, like I said, a season preview. We're going to pretty much start out with the Viking transactions. Excuse me, pardon my clearing throat. But yeah, Viking transactions. So we're not going to review the preseason games much. It's more or less we're going to talk about the transactions. Who's going to be on this team and who isn't. That's pretty much what we're going to start out with. Then, of course, like I said, delve deeper into the actual season previews, the NFC North preview, and then we'll close with the NFL predictions and all that good stuff, the predictions. So, here we go. Well, the Vikings did sign linebacker Chad Greenway to a 5-year contract. That's the most recent thing, so we'll just start off with that. Might as well, since it's kind of like the biggest story. That also frees up time and room to get started negotiating with Adrian Peterson. That could get real interesting. I mean, it could lead into him getting the franchise tag next season, just like Chad Greenway got the franchise tag going into this season. Now he's got his 5-year contract. Maybe we do the same thing with Peterson, give him the franchise tag like at the start of free agency, and then getting into the later into the actual preseason and all that good stuff. They give Adrian Peterson with a 3 to 5 year contract. It'll probably be like 5. I don't think Adrian's going to take some 3-year deal. Probably be a 5-year contract and see how things go from there. It's going to be quite interesting. There were some very interesting cuts, though. This is when things really start to make people wonder what's going on. The biggest cut, of course, was when the Vikings cut Rhett Bomar.
What?
Okay, no, I'm just kidding. Yeah, that was on August 29th. But I had to throw that in just to be, just because I wouldn't be me if I didn't do that. No, Rhett Bomar, we didn't even actually really see him play in the preseason anyway. Wish him the best. I'm sure he's a decent human being. Good luck to your career. We'll see what happens there. But no, there were some interesting cuts along the way. Jeff Dugan, Heath Farwell, Ryan Cook, all released in the cuts on September 3rd, 2011. A couple more I'll get into in a little bit. But, yeah, Jamar Johnson, that was the other semi-big one. Devin Aroma-Shadu will be playing on Sundays. That's right, Devin Aroma-Shadu will play on Sundays. Minnesota Vikings acquisition at wide receiver. The number 2 acquisition at wide receiver behind Michael Jenkins. Very exciting free agent crop for the Vikings this year. Well, not really. Outside of acquiring Donovan McNabb at the quarterback position. We all know about that already. But no, Ryan Cook, Jeff Dugan, and Heath Farwell all gone. Very interesting. Ryan Cook never really living up to a second-round pick. No. And, of course, the trivial question is, who did the Vikings get for Dante Culpepper? Ryan Cook, ultimately. That's a push because both of the players were pretty much useless at that point in time, 2005 on. Post-2005 and on, Ryan Cook was virtually useless. Jeff Dugan, a veteran of this team for a long period of time, a pretty valuable veteran, is no longer with the Minnesota Vikings. He was like a tight end fullback type, 99% blocker, 1% receiver. That's pretty much the story there. But a valuable asset and a well-respected player in the locker room and on the field on Sundays. Heath Farwell, though, you talk about a respected and a valuable piece. I mean, he was like the MVP of the fantasy team, excuse me. The special teams, yeah, they might as well be a fantasy team. But no, the special teams, Heath Farwell was one of the studs in all of football on fantasy teams. Gollies. You guys know what I mean, okay? Special teams, all this stupid fantasy football is making my head spin, and yeah, that's just how it goes. Heath Farwell, yeah. He had an ACL tear about 2 years ago, and unfortunately, that's the problem here with old Heath Farwell. Heath Farwell, it's not really the main problem, but they're maybe afraid of his injury past with that. A little teeny bit of age, and, obviously cap space. The Vikings need to make cap space. They made absolutely no moves at the safety position, acquiring anybody. They had Tyrell Johnson and Jamarcus Sanford duke it out. Ultimately, Jamarcus Sanford, as I was talking about on the previous show, I was like, there must be a reason why he's never won that position. I'm surprised they would be going with Tyrell Johnson and not Jamarcus Sanford, because I would think Sanford is the better player out of the two. Well, Sanford is the better player out of the two, and he has won the starting position at free safety for the Minnesota Vikings. So congratulations, Jamarcus Sanford, finally winning that starting position over Tyrell Johnson. Medea Williams, complete garbage for 2 years. Sanford was better from the get-go, and in a lot of people's opinions, but never really, Sanford never really took the reins of that position. He just kind of was an exciting piece on special teams. I almost said fantasy again. On special teams, I'm in a fantasy world right now, and in spurts during regular play, it's going to be real interesting to see how Jamarcus Sanford fares at the free safety position. But I got to think he will be an upgrade over Madieu Williams, regardless, and over Tyrell Johnson. Tyrell will remain with the team, will not be cut. Vikings, again, as mentioned, no moves at the free safety position. We'll get deeper into the Chicago Bears later, but the Saints released safety Merriweather, and he winds up with the Bears, not with the Vikings. A lot of people very frustrated and annoyed with that. We'll get more into that when we get to the Chicago Bears section of the preview. Of course, there'll be ties. I'll talk about the Vikings along with, when I'm talking about the other members of the NFC North. You guys know I'm going to do that. So we'll see how things turn out. We will see how things turn out there. It will be pretty interesting indeed. So as we kind of slide around into other moves, other transactions, well, the Vikings the Vikings officially, I'll say this first, Jasper Brinkley injured his hip during the third preseason game, and he is unfortunately out for the entire season, so officially placed on injured reserve on September 3rd, meaning that's the end of Jasper Brinkley for the year. Another valuable piece in the special teams. That really sucks. you cut Keith Farwell and Jasper Brinkley's out for the year. That really sucks. just a little bit. Thank God we have Kenny Onatolu. I can't even say his name, but you know who I'm talking about. Kenny Onatolu, very valuable piece on special teams. I guess that might be part of the reason why the Vikings cut Keith Farwell. They figure, Kenny is a better. They figure Kenny is a cheaper solution and is really not much of a downgrade from Heath Farwell. But with the loss of Brinkley, who was an immediate backup for E.J. Henderson, a very valuable piece. In fact, he started in his rookie year replacing E.J. Henderson when E.J. broke his femur. Man, oh man, the Vikings do acquire David Herron, who was on the Vikings a few years ago. Remember that? I talked about him extensively on in the training camp specials, and ultimately how he made the team. It was kind of fun watching him ascend and make the team, going all the way from an undrafted guy. The Vikings do acquire him on August 27th to help replace Jasper Brinkley, and he's gone within a week, unfortunately for him. Classic stuff indeed. We'll get to his replacement in a minute here. Very, very frustrating there indeed. Some other familiar names, though, on the cut list we'll mention real quick. Ryan D'Imperio, again, released, 7th round pick at fullback position. Jaquin Iglesias, a lot of people were not a lot of people were surprised, but a little bit. He was decent. Stephen Burton, who was a later pick in the draft, was also released during the cuts. Tremaine Johnson, who's been around for a while, in and out with the Vikings in these training camps, he was released again. Remember, he went to Detroit last year, but came back here. Interesting how that turns out. Jamar Johnson, one of the bigger ones. So the Vikings keeping Greg Camarillo. Some people might be wondering what's the deal here. Is Camarillo that much better of a punt returner or kick returner, than Jamar Johnson? I doubt it. Actually, I don't know. I don't know. I would rather have Johnson over Camarillo, to be honest, if it was up to me. And yes, I would keep Aroma Shadu over both of them. Oh yeah. So I agree with Paul Allen. Paul Allen was really in support of Devin Aroma Shadu on that front. But other than that, not the biggest surprises of all time outside of that. But now we get to the one that surprised the crap out of me. Chris Jaguar. The Vikings released Chris Jaguar.
It's just, what were they thinking?
It stunned the crap out of me. I was like, okay, we have almost no depth in the offensive line at all. You already got rid of Ryan Cooks, and now you're getting rid of Jaguar? Why? Is Love that much better than him? Okay, I guess they're feeling the love. But he's not exactly averaging 15 rebounds a game because this is the wrong sport. Kevin Love, yeah, you got the wrong Love here. But whatever, we'll see how it happens. DeMarcus Love of the Vikings offensive line, he ended up I guess, beating out Chris Jaguar. Both of them had versatility. Both of them were taken in the 6th round. And Demarcus Love officially remaining on the Minnesota Vikings. But Jaguar and Ryan D'Imperio were moved to the practice squad, along with Stephen Burton, who was also a draft pick, a wide receiver, a 7th-round pick, if I remember correctly. And yes, I do. We have our practice squad. We have Emmanuel Arsenault, fullback Matt Asiata. So yeah, because the Vikings don't even really use a fullback this year, it looks like, unless you want to make that guy Jim Kleinsasser, who is on the team still. Stephen Burton, but yeah, Stephen Burton, as I'm moving on quickly. Ryan D'Imperio, there's another fullback. Chris Jaguar. Yes, Chris Jaguar did clear waivers and wound up on the practice squad. So glad that Chris Jaguar is still a member of the organization at this point in time. Running back Caleb King, defensive end Cedric McKinley, and the tight end Alan Reisner, who was one of the last guys who made the team and was cut at the last second to acquire another player, to acquire that linebacker. Again, we'll get to that in a second. That was fun times indeed. Definitely been some crazy moves up and down. I mean, but then again, I'm calling it crazy here. But ultimately, it's training camp being training camp. I mean, there's always familiar players getting cut. But this year, it seemed like a little bit more than normal. I mean, you can tell it's a coach that has been in this organization before, and that at the same time, of course, had different opinions than the previous one. That's why guys like Ryan Cook, Jeff Dugan, and Heath Farwell no longer on the roster. At least at this point in time. Very, very interesting on that front. So we'll see how that goes. Not the worst moves of all time. Really not really. It's nice to see LaTroy Guion finally becoming a starting defensive tackle in the NFL with the departure of Pat Williams. We'll miss Pat Williams, but LaTroy Guion, I think, could be an upgrade. Though, will it be Remy Adele when Kevin Williams comes back from a 2-week suspension? It won't be a 4-week suspension. It'll be a 2-game suspension for the purple pill eater deal. Remember the performance-enhancing drug or the water pill. The purple pill eater, Kevin Williams. Used to be 2 of them with Pat Williams as well. But only a 2-game suspension, luckily, so that was cut in half. Guion and Remy Adele will start in those positions. We'll see which one keeps the starting position and which one doesn't. It'll be interesting. Adele, of course, a member of the high-low attack on Brett Favre, which gave him a very purple ankle for a very long time after the infamous NFC Championship game. The bumbling, fumbling, in New Orleans. That was no fun. No, it really wasn't. It was a great game, but the result and the fumbling was not fun. So that's pretty much how things are rolling around with the Vikings in that department. So there's your transactions at this point in time. We'll get back to that linebacker in a second. I'm bouncing around a little bit, but that's how it goes. I mean, there's a lot of information in front of you. Sometimes it's hard to get it all into one place. And there he is, Xavier Adibi, excuse me. I don't know if I'm saying his name right or not. A role player, basically. What do you expect? Oh yeah, Larry Dean also making the roster. That's a pretty unknown figure as well. Yes, it is a very unknown figure. Larry Dean, that's actually a rookie player. Xavier Adibi, I don't think I'm saying his name right, but whatever. He's from Stillwater, Oklahoma, which is kind of funny. Stillwater, Stillwater, Minnesota by St. Paul. Yeah, but really just a reserve linebacker for the not best defense of all time, the Houston Texans, in 3 seasons. He was an all-right player. Not the worst, not the best. No sacks, no interceptions in his career with the Houston Texans. I almost called them the Oilers, but hey, he's an NFL player. He played the last 3 years. Numbers aren't bad. Nothing spectacular. He did force 2 fumbles last year. He forced 1 fumble the year before in 2009. Fumble recovery in 2008. So it's kind of like a switcheroo between all the 3 years. So there was some forced turnovers. That's good. That's very good, actually. In a reserve role, not the worst numbers, to be honest. So welcome to the Minnesota Vikings, Xavier Adibi. I believe it's more Adibi. It sounds more correctly. That's just how it goes. Welcome to the Vikings, Mr. Xavier from Virginia Tech, coming into his 4th season in the NFL. Oh, and one other player I don't know why I didn't get to this earlier. I really don't. Well, you could say two. I mean, Brandon Burton was a draft pick, but still kind of cool to see him making the team. Another cornerback, Brandon Burton, is a member of the Minnesota Vikings. I believe he was a 5th-round pick, and I said he'd compete with Asher Allen, ultimately, potentially for the job. Both of them on the roster at this point in time. But yeah, Marcus Sherrills. Remember, he's a guy who was kind of a favorite of mine last preseason. Still kind of a semi-favorite coming in, though I criticized him a little bit on episode number 92. Marcus Sherrills, a member of the Minnesota Vikings, and a former member of the Minnesota Gophers. Small in stature, but a big, solid player. Made some nice hits. Occasionally gets burned, but did force that pick 6. That was great. And he's a pretty good punt returner when he's not muffing the punt, not muffing the ball, not muffing the kick, excuse me. Of course, a former member of the Minnesota Gophers as well. He will play on Sundays. Welcome to the National Football League, Marcus Sherrills. And as expected, and a guy who could end up taking who a lot of people believe could end up being the best safety on the roster when all said and done. The best safety out of the 5 guys right now, Hussein Abdullah, Eric Frandon, Tyrell Johnson, Jamarcus Sanford, and Mistral Raymond is who I'm talking about. Mistral Raymond, a player, a 6th-round pick. Remember, the Vikings had 3 6th-round picks this year. Very crazy. I called him Remy Adele, the other guy. Remy Ayodel. There we go. Ayodel, excuse me. But no, Mistral Raymond. A lot of people very excited about him from South Florida. Still a very unknown school, ultimately. But a guy who could end up being very valuable for this team in the years to come. We will see how Mistral Raymond turns out. But, hey, it's something to look forward to. It is something to look forward to. And as Viking fans, constantly looking for that. Another guy. Okay, I'll say another one. Adrian Awesome, who was awesome during the preseason. Yes, he was. A former New York Giant, undrafted player, did not play last year. Undrafted player, as mentioned, played 2 years with the Giants in 08 and 09. Hey, very good in the preseason. He is a Minnesota Viking, at least as of now, and probably for a while. I mean, at least for the year, I would think. DeAndre Reed also joins that defensive line, the defensive and core and all that good stuff. Christian Ballard and Everson Griffin, all those guys. Actually, this defensive line, Pat Williams gone or not even, Kevin Williams suspended. It's a pretty damn good defensive line. From top to bottom. LaTroy Guyon, as I mentioned a million times, of course, Kevin Williams, Fred Evans, Christian Ballard, Remy Oyoyo, Brian Robinson, who is very effective in limited time and is very quick, DeAndre Reed. Not bad. DeAndre Reed, a draft pick, had a nice preseason. Everson Griffin, who knows? I mean, he had a really good start to the preseason, maybe a little bit quieter finish. Adrian Awesome. I just keep calling him Awesome, but I'm not from New Jersey or New York or any of that, but I'm just having fun with it. And, of course, the freak, Jared Allen. Very, very cool to see Adrian Awesome, though, emerge the way he did in this preseason. It's cool to see a guy like that. I mean, he's the kind of guy you root for. You see him emerge along with guys like Lorenzo Booker, and who will be playing at the running back position as well, the former Florida State member. A very explosive running back with a very explosive game. He really is. It's going to be him or Toby Gerhart as that third down back. I mean, you got 3 running backs on the roster officially, and all 3 of them I think are going to be a factor this year. Yep. I do believe that. Adrian Peterson, of course, probably the best running back in the game. Toby Gerhart looks a lot better than last year. And Lorenzo Booker is explosive. And they're all pretty darn young. In fact, Adrian Peterson is the oldest member of the group. Actually, excuse me, Lorenzo Booker is 1 year older. But it's pretty young. Gotta like what you see there. Christian Ponder, of course, has won the number 2 quarterback position officially. So Christian Ponder is your backup quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings. Should anything happen to Donovan McNabb, the future will be the present with Christian Ponder, number 7, quarterback of the Minnesota Vikings. We will see how that goes. He, in the 4 games of the preseason, he's like one of those stocks with the constant little uptrend. You look at that constant uptrend, like the diagonal line just. Hey, Christian Ponder improved with every game he played in this preseason. And to me, again, that's a sign of a player that is a fast learner. Players that learn fast improve quickly. and improve consistently. Not just quickly, but consistently. And that is what I saw out of Christian Ponder in this preseason. And ladies and gentlemen of the Minnesota Viking faithful, and of course the Purple Mafia faithful, to say Christian Ponder is the quarterback of the future is a very good thing. The future does look bright, and I do believe the Vikings are in good hands with Christian Ponder as the quarterback of the future. I'm optimistic. I'm optimistic. For the most part, I think I am optimistic, though I have fun sometimes criticizing players or plays or coaching decisions or whatever, or free agent decisions at times. But overall, I am an optimist, and I am very happy with the progress of Christian Ponder. I mean, you give him the benefit of the doubt, enjoy it. Enjoy it. We finally have a young quarterback of the future on this team for the first time since, dare I say his name, Dante Culpepper. Though, Culpepper was not somebody that consistently improved. He just kind of blew up one year. He did absolutely nothing in 99, was not ready to play, and then came in 2000, blew up, and then totally imploded in 2001 into 2002, and then had two more good years in 03, 04, and that was about it. Then he just basically forgot how to play and never really returned to form again. So, Ponder, the steady improvement, the fast learner, hey, the future looks bright at quarterback as far as I'm concerned. Very, very intriguing, very clutch during a drive. Almost got the Vikings a victory against the Dallas Cowboys in Week 3. And, of course, Week 3 is the game usually when the starters get the most playing time. So to see Christian Ponder play as well as he did in a game that, he wasn't really getting extended playing time, and maybe some of the better players were still playing when he was in, he looked awesome. He did. Gotta like it, because Week 3 is the biggest workout for either the starters or like the immediate backups, like the number 2's the second string, not like third and fourth. Great week for Christian Ponder. Great preseason for him indeed. Very intrigued. Joe Webb, we'll see what happens. With Rhett Bomar gone, Joe Webb will remain the third string quarterback on the roster, and we'll see. We'll see what they do. They can do anything they want pretty much with Joe Webb. It's going to be fun to find out how that turns out. So we're going to get to the Facebook group here briefly. Well, not too briefly, but brief enough. There weren't that many posts, unfortunately. There really weren't that many posts. So we'll start with Tony Coleman. Facebook.com/Purple Mafia Show. Facebook.com/Purple Mafia Show. Go visit the page and click like. Simple as that. We could use you. Hop on board and start posting. It's why not interact with all of us Viking fans? This is worth it indeed. Tony Coleman says that this is about that Cowboy game, of course. So that's a nice segue. He says, I gotta say, Ponder had a hell of a last minute and a half there. He looked good. I thought if that last play had ended out of bounds like it was supposed to, he may have won the game. So very true indeed, and it was a very encouraging sign for the future of this franchise. Christian Ponder showing early signs that he is the real deal. Very cool thoughts, Tony Coleman, as always. Chris Burke of the Sports Illustrated believes that Tony Coleman, again posting this, the Vikings will be 6-10. That's worse than their prediction for Detroit at 8-8. What do you think of this NFC North assessment? Very crazy. Very crazy. Definitely too negative, that's for sure. Nigel Southern. So great. Nice to hear from Nigel Southern, of course, and very strong contributor to Timberwolves Explosion, which is another show I do on the sportstuff.com and iTunes, covering, of course, the Minnesota Timberwolves. He says, I think the Vikings have some real weaknesses this year. The D-line, secondary, a deep threat partner for Harvin. I'd like to think they could do better than 6-10, but we will require some outstanding play from AP and whoever plays quarterback to get this team into the playoffs. There are a lot of weaknesses, all right. The D-line, to me, is a position of depth, I believe. I can understand where Nigel's coming from a little bit, but really, overall, I think the D-line is a position of strength. Maybe he meant the offensive line. I'm not sure. I think the O-line is the frightening thing, and especially after cutting Chris Gare, it's like, what are you doing? You cut Chris Jaguar, when you have a weak offensive line, and you already cut Cook. Not saying I like Cook. In fact, I've actually not wanted him here for quite a while. No offense to him. I'm sure he's a great guy, but not a very good football player as far as I'm concerned. Certainly not worthy of a second-round pick in the National Football League. You cut Chris Jaguar. What are you doing? It was already soft enough. DeMarcus Love, who knows? A lot of people do like him, but it's too early to really say he's really anything yet in this league. McNabb does look really sharp, though. So I do believe the quarterback position is very steady at worst. At worst, the quarterback position looks great as far as I'm concerned. McNabb extremely sharp. Ponder, one of those stocks that continues to climb. Very exciting. I'm not impressed overall by the wide receiver position, Tony and Nigel. I'm not impressed at all at the wide receiver position outside of Percy Harvin, who really, to me, is not a wide receiver. He is a slot receiver. He's an underneath guy, catch and go. Catch and go. Yak, yards after catch. He's a yak guy. He's not a jump ball, touchdown, wide receiver that you throw to the sidelines. You throw to the sidelines for Percy Harvin, the ball doesn't get caught. I'm sorry to say that, but to me that's fact. Not tall enough to be a sideline receiver, so therefore he is not a wide receiver. He is just a receiver. Aroma Shadu could be a short value as far as I'm concerned. Short-term value, he might be. Would have been fun if the Vikings went after Chester Taylor, but he ended up going to the Arizona Cardinals. The Bears do cut him and acquire Marion Barber. We'll get more into that in a little bit when we get into the NFC North preview. Toby Gerhardt, we'll see what happens there. I also talk about how the Lions, seeing them becoming the 8-8 club, interesting. They do have some nice pieces. Their offense in general is very good. It all depends on Matthew Stafford. Is he finally ready to blow up and be a quarterback of the franchise for the Detroit Lions, or is he just going to be the same not so great quarterback that he's been thus far? We'll see what happens there. You got Kelvin Johnson, who is elite. Javid Best, who started strong and finished weak last year. Well, what'll happen there, we're not sure. The defensive line on the Detroit Lions is definitely one of the rising defensive lines in the NFL as far as I'm concerned. Is this the year the Roar is restored? Well, ultimately I'm going to say I doubt it, but maybe, because I don't think too many people thought the Bears were going to the NFC Championship game last year, and they did. And I don't think anybody thought the Packers would win the Super Bowl last year, but they did. So there you go. Tony Coleman talking about the final preseason game, 28-0. Vikings defeat the Houston Texans. He says, this game was a little bit of a snoozer, but I enjoy the final score. Again, I'm going to say that I think Ponder looked good. Granted, he wasn't playing against the starters, but I saw a lot of potential with him. We might have a decent future with this guy. Webb, who I am stuck up for the past, didn't look as good as Ponder looked to me tonight. No. And I don't think Webb looked as good as Ponder the entire preseason as far as I'm concerned. He just doesn't look as sharp and certainly more prone to turnovers as far as I'm concerned. Ponder, hey, I had a nice talk there. I already talked about Ponder quite a bit. Great thoughts, Tony Coleman, of course. These are from part of what Tony was saying, too. I mean, I really agree with him about Ponder. Very exciting indeed. Anthony Batista, Anthony from LA, makes a comment saying Donovan looks calm and comfy in the pocket with a nice, strong arm and a little mobility to him still. Running game is elite as usual. Wideouts are average aside from I told Percy. So I got Brett Favre. That was a cool line. The O-line is getting better every week. D-line will need to improve from last year and force hurry-ups and turnovers. Greenway and Henderson accounted for over 240 tackles together, and our DBs must stay healthy and catch easy picks. Vikings do all this, and we got a long shot, and we got a shot at being 10-6 or better. He says, that's my take. Going to the game opening day in San Diego. Gotta like that. I'll post pics. Very, very cool. We will definitely look forward to that. Gotta love that. Anthony, nice to see posts. We'll probably, put them in the Purple Mafia show page here. That'd be great. And there they will remain. They will be a part of Purple Mafia lore. Anthony. So, very cool. Gotta like that indeed. Anthony Batista says, okay, Joey, tell the Vikes to sign Merriweather. And, of course, they didn't. We dumped Medeo for a reason, and we did not bring in the suitable replacement. Not sure what the heck is going on. Not sure what the heck is going on with that. Now, I also post that Greenway gets an extension. There you go. We talked about him already. Sebastian Balls with his season prediction. He says lose to San Diego. Then week 2, McNabb gets injured, and Ponder comes in and gets the win. Ponder does so well that when McNabb is healthy, he doesn't get to start, and we finish the year 11-5, winning the division. Green Bay gets the wild card. Green Bay wins wild card, and we beat them in the divisional round at home, with Longwell getting a game-winning field goal against his former team. The next round, we beat Philly to face the Ravens in the Super Bowl, and we win our first ever Super Bowl. And with our future quarterback, franchise quarterback, Christian Ponder. And I love the optimism. And you know what? Hey, there is nothing wrong with optimism on Purple Mafia. Because you know what? I spewed enough negativity last year. You guys probably got sick of me doing it. And at the same time, I'm sure not a soul of you really blame me. You maybe got sick of it, but at the same time, could you really blame me? And I couldn't blame you guys either if you guys are spewing negativity about last year's uber frustrating season. But it's nice to think positive, and you know what, quite frankly, it's easy to think positive about this team. You know, it is. To me, there's no reason to believe that this team cannot have a winning record going into 2011. I have no reason to believe the Vikings cannot have a winning record in 2011.
What?
Yep, I'm saying that. Call me a homer. Call me whatever you want. If you really want to call me a homer, you don't really listen to Purple Mafia. Because did I sound like a homer last year? No. I sounded like a very frustrated fan who wanted to win. That's what I sounded like. Do I think the Vikings are going to win the Super Bowl? No. Do I think they're going to the NFC title game? Probably not. But if they do, hey, great. Spectacular. And Sebastian, I hope you're 110% right and the Vikings win it all. But I'm just, giving my opinion. And I love the optimism, though, very much indeed. Predicting somebody to get hurt, well, okay. That's fine. I mean, it's fun. It's just, you're mostly just saying that Ponder's going to take over and be a superstar. I hope he does, man. I hope he does. I hope Ponder sizes up that ring with the purple stone in it and the Vikings logo on top. World champion Minnesota Vikings. Maybe someday Christian Ponder will win a championship with his team. Will it be this year? Maybe. Probably not, but maybe. Will it be in the future? Oh, I hope so. I sure hope so. I then posted the list of transactions of September 5th. Of course, Ryan DiPiero and all them going. Chris Jaguar, of course, going to the practice squad. Very happy to hear that Jaguar has been retained. And Anthony Batista says agreed. Yeah, it does make me feel better that Jaguar was retained via the practice squad, because I do think Chris Jaguar has a place in the National Football League, and I'm a little surprised that he's not going to be playing Sundays, at least not as of yet. I'm a little surprised by that, but at least we retained him. I mean, I'm kind of surprised that nobody, and I mean nobody, picked him up. To get on the practice squad, nobody claimed him. Usually it's guys that are not going to really jump on a roster right away. So, congratulations, Chris Jaguar, at sticking with the Vikings, I guess. Or congratulations, Vikings, on getting Jaguar through waivers. I'm glad about that. So I'm glad Anthony from L.A. agrees. Boy, I miss his calls, though, man. Anthony, I know you're listening. I miss your calls. I understand you have a life, though, and maybe you're too busy. So, hey, that's why Purple Mafia hasn't been around, because busy. Too much junk going on. Being it's regular season, though, I got to get my butt behind this mic. And being that second shift, honestly, is more show-friendly than first shift. Back in second shift again. I got to get my ass behind the microphone. Yes, I do. I really love the posts, guys. Please keep them coming. Missing you, Dan Doro, out there. I understand you're probably busy with school from what I saw. You said you scored 100% on a test. That's pretty cool. Some radar test. That's pretty cool. Congratulations. I don't know if you want me saying that on the air, but hey, it's a positive thing. You scored 100%, so well done, Dan Doro. Well done indeed. Shout out to you, and yeah, I missed you on the show, man. I missed you on the boards. You're always such a great contributor. As are you, Sebastian, and Anthony and Tony. You guys are the absolute best. So we'll be concluding the page now. There's nothing else to say about the Facebook page. Don't forget to go there and click like. That's it. All right, so we're going to take a quick break, and we will get to the NFC North preview, and then after that, one more segment with the NFL predictions. NFC North preview and NFL prediction. NFC North predictions and NFL predictions. Boy, oh boy, if I ever get that right, I will be a happy man. We'll be right back on the 93, the 93rd episode of Purple Mafia, the John Randall episode. And we are back here on Purple Mafia, episode number 93, which is a reminder for iPod users and other MP3 players like the Microsoft Zune and whatever else. Welcome on board once again to the show. Well, let's just pretty much jump into the NFC North preview. Well, we've talked about the Vikings transactions. Let's move on to, well, you could kind of say the least of our worries, I guess, at this point in time. Well, who do you think it is? The Detroit Lions. Of course it's the Detroit Lions. For now. They're an improving team. Yes, they are. Matthew Stafford is basically an addition from within, of course, coming back from injury. And a lot of people expect him to have a breakout season, once and for all. Number one pick a few years back. Is this finally the time for Matthew Stafford to shine for the Detroit Lions? We'll see. Javid Best? Well, we'll see. We'll see. There's no massive additions where you're like, oh my God, here come the Detroit Lions. But they made a few okay moves here and there. Nothing really to really majorly get into in general. They signed kind of who they could, I guess. They just kind of are who they are at this point in time. But really the key is the defensive line, like I talked about when I was looking at the Facebook group. The defensive line and the quarterback, the offense in general, are the major keys for this Detroit Lions and the success of the Detroit Lions. Matthew Stafford, Sean Hill, Drew Stanton, the quarterback, Javid Best, the main guy coming in once again for the Lions to try to be, well, will he take a step up from last year? Started up very strong and finished, you could say, on the poor side. They have a very nice tight end in Brandon Pettigrew. A very strong season last year. Yeah, I mean, Javid Best's overall numbers, nothing to really get excited about. Really, the best part is, well, he had the 5.55 yards on the ground, only a 3.2 average, 4 touchdowns officially, but he did have 487 receiving yards, which is, incredible for a running back in the NFL, especially a guy, he averaged about as many, or he got about as many receiving yards as he got running. It's just, so obviously the versatility is there. I mean, there's no reason to believe that this team can't continue to be on an uptrend in terms of victories, but are they on the verge of becoming a super team? No, I can't say that. Pettigrew is, as I mentioned, one of the better tight ends in the league. Still very young, of course, only 26 years old, coming into his 4th season in the NFL. The main guy really to worry about the Detroit Lions is their 24-year-old Ndamukong Suh. I hope I'm saying his name right, and I think I am. Obviously, we all know who that is. He is one of the best defensive tackles in all of football. He just might be the best, especially by the end of the year. Yeah, I mean, it's guys like this that you build a franchise around. He had 10 sacks last year as a defensive tackle, not as a defensive end. Just an overall force, run stopping, pass rushing, all the above. I mean, the guy gets it done. He's about as good as it gets in the entire league. He really is. Detroit Lions, will they be a playoff team this year? No. Not unless Matthew Stafford blows up. And I mean just absolutely blows up. It has like a Kurt Warner type season offensively with, of course, Kelvin Johnson, who clearly is a star receiver in the National Football League. no major like free agent addition, trades, whatever, that make you go like, oh my God, here come the Detroit Lions. Jason Hanson is still there, his 20th season, 41 years old. Just amazing how long he has lasted in the NFL. Wow. I mean, it's just amazing. Jason Hanson is still there. Poor guy. He has been there forever. It's amazing how long he has stuck around with that franchise. It is just crazy. Pretty much the whole 90s and the whole 2000s, and here we are going into 2011, whatever you want to call it, and he's still there for the time being. Probably not forever and ever, but can't wait forever. You got Nate Burleson, still a member of the Detroit Lions. Hey, they have pieces to continue to improve. Are they a playoff team once again? No, they're not. So we're going to pretty much leave things as is. Detroit Lions, I believe, well, I'll get to the records later, but that's pretty much the deal with the Detroit Lions. It's pretty much about the offense and the defensive line. The linebacking core is improving. That's pretty much where we'll leave it. Let's get to the Bears. Let's get to the Chicago Bears. You know, I would have really liked to have Dylan Richardson on. In fact, I was even, thinking about calling him, but the schedule and the schedule in general, my work schedule, and other things I have to do when I get home, other things in general that I have to get done, unfortunately, around the house and all that good stuff. And obviously he has the same thing going on as well. I just was not able to be able to make the call. I mean, I just didn't think I'd be able to get this done tonight, unfortunately. But I will have Dylan Richardson on very soon. I know you're listening. I got to get you on here. We can probably talk Bears, maybe even, very soon. I'm sure during the regular season, of course, especially, I mean, I got to have him. I really should have him on when the Vikings and Bears play. I really should. This team did make a few more free agent moves. The Detroit Lions, there's really nothing more to say. They're not going to just bring in these big-time players or even like halfway decent type players. The Bears did, though. Yes, they did. They let go of Chester Taylor and brought in Marion Barber. Yes, Marion Barber joining. Excuse me. Of course, Matt Forte, the guy who emerged. Of course, had a good freshman year, a bad sophomore year, and a very good junior year for the Chicago Bears last season. The running back, but you bring in Marion Barber, stabilizes the running back position even more than they had at one point with Chester Taylor. Chester Taylor almost invisible last year with the Chicago Bears. A lot of people writing this team off thinking, they got to the conference finals last year, the NFC Championship game. Yes, they did. They got to the NFC Championship game. Jay Cutler was really pretty much unable to play in that game. You saw Caleb Haney play. Oh, goody, and Nathan Enderle a little bit. Or no, you didn't see Nathan Enderle. Excuse me. You saw a much older backup for the Chicago Bears at the time. Yeah, much older, just a little bit older. But Caleb Haney. I mean, there just was not much going on at that point. Jay Cutler, a more serious knee injury than a lot of people would have liked to admit. A lot of people wanting to just pound on Jay Cutler because he's not a very likable character. No, he's really not. And he is very interception prone and a lot like Rex Grossman. He's a rich man's Rex Grossman in a lot of ways. Jay Cutler. Oh, and by the way, Rex Grossman named the starting quarterback for the Washington Redskins. Wow. Let's go Washington Redskins, man. Oh, yeah. Wow. I'm very glad I'm not a fan of that team. Oh, yuck. That's all I got to say. I'd rather be a Bears fan than a Redskins fan. Think about that. Think about that statement. Yeah, I would. Look at the players. They did make some moves. I mean, regardless of what you think of them, Marion Barber is an upgrade from Chester Taylor. Of course, the safety they just acquired, Merriweather from the New England Patriots, who a lot of Viking fans just a little pissed off. Brandon Merriweather stepping in at age only 27. Unfortunately, a Miami Hurricane. Keep watching the news tabloids as more and more stuff comes out about that. I'm not going to comment too much. I'll just say there's a potential for a ridiculous amount of academic, all that kind of stuff. Well, not academic, more or less like recruiting fraud going on over there. there's evidence of it. Of course, a source from prison mentioning that. We know that's the news broke about 2 weeks ago. It's kind of gotten a little quiet for the time being, but boy, that thing could absolutely blow up later on. I'll just leave that alone, though. I'm going way too far already and totally digressing from where I need to be. Brandon Merriweather added to the Chicago Bears. A defense that's really not that great. In some ways it is really good, in some ways it isn't. Brandon Merriweather, an upgrade to the Chicago Bears secondary, which is what he absolutely would have been for the Minnesota Vikings secondary, though I am very intrigued to see how Jamarcus Sanford will play as a starter. I'm very happy he is. There he is, the starter. Oh, goody. Yes, oh, goody indeed. There are players up and down this roster. The Bears continuing to hang on to people. I mean, there are big names on this team. Of course, Julius Peppers. Of course, Lance Briggs. Brian Urlacher's still there, of course. Absolutely. There are pieces. Charles Tillman's still around. He's always been a fairly solid individual. But no, they added Roy Williams as wide receiver. And I know to a lot of people, Roy Williams at wide receiver is like, well, we're happy for you. Roy Williams sucks. He had one good year with the Lions, sucked with the Cowboys, and well, now he's with the Bears. That's great. Well, hey, it can't hurt. It can't hurt, and especially with Mike Martz as the offensive coordinator. We'll see how that turns out. Johnny Knox, of course, a still emerging receiver with the Bears. Devin Hester is who he is. Earl Bennett is a pretty solid player as well. I mean, there's no reason to believe this can't be a playoff team. I mean, you got two solid running backs. You have an above-average quarterback, regardless of what you think of him. You have several decent receivers. I mean, it's pretty safe to say, guys, and yeah, obviously I'm not being a homer when I say this. Obviously I'm not being a homer. This proves it. The Chicago Bears wide receiving core is better than the Vikings. Well, yeah, it is. Earl Bennett, Hester, Johnny Knox, and yeah, even Roy Williams. Yeah, it's better than the Vikings. I'm sorry, it is. It just is. I hate to say it, but facts are what they are. What else can you say? You just kind of have to leave that as is. And yeah, you got the two solid running backs, like I've already said. So no reason for me to believe the Bears can't be a playoff team. Will they? Will they not? You know what? It just depends. The Bears are one of those teams you kind of flip a coin. They could be 10-6, and they could be 7-9 or 6-10. Just flip a coin with these Bears. You just don't know what you're going to get until they play the game. The Bears are funky like that. A team that's a lot more of a sure thing, and yes, they are, because they're sizing up the rings again. The Green Bay Packers. Our Super Bowl champions coming into this season. Oh, goody. Aren't you guys excited? Well, I'm sure not. They lost basically nobody. They won the Super Bowl with a 10-6 record. They got the job done. They did what they had to. They were able to keep James Jones, who the Vikings wanted, a guy whose stats were halfway decent, but would have been ridiculous had he actually caught some of the touchdown passes that were literally in the bread basket. They were in the oven, whatever you want to say. Bread basket sounds a lot better. Yeah. For me, no reason to believe the Green Bay Packers cannot compete for another title.
Come on! Seriously.
Yeah, I know I'm the host of Purple Mafia. I know this is the Vikings show, but yeah, it's my job to be to be just a little bit objective here, and there's no reason why the Packers can't compete for another championship. Unfortunately, to all of us, to myself, and to all of you listening, there's no reason to believe that the Packers cannot compete for another title. Will they win this year? Will they win another title? No. I say no, but that's just me. Just going to have to leave it as is. The most exciting team in terms of transactions in the NFC North is the Chicago Bears. The Vikings are the second. Our second place because we did acquire Donovan McNabb. Michael Jenkins, well, great. Kinda. And that's about it there, really. It's because, and the Vikings draft pick of Christian Ponder was pretty exciting as well, just a little bit. So mostly the quarterback position for the Vikings. in terms of additions. Outside of that, really, well, we got our Remy Adoyel. I'm saying his name all screwy, but you get the idea. We got him to help out with the defensive tackle position to help replace Patrick Williams. Of course, dumping Bryant McKinney was exciting in a lot of ways in terms of like, whoa, I can't believe they did that, and Charlie Johnson coming in to replace him. Not an exciting replacement, but a replacement. It's pretty much as is. And yeah, I'm just keep tying the Vikings back into the other teams because, well, this is a Vikings show, and I guess that's just the way it's going to have to be. So, sorry, Green Bay Packer fans, about that. I just said your team can compete for the championship again this year, and there's no reason to believe they can't. And I've said that about 5 times now just to annoy more Viking fans, and I'm sorry about that. No major losses for the Packers, no major additions. They kept the players they needed to keep. And, well, they're going to have a healthier Ryan Grant at the running back position. Of course, Aaron Rodgers is ready to rock and roll. Matt Flynn, a few years ago, surprisingly won the number 2 job. Still will be the number 2 quarterback for the Green Bay Packers. Yes, they will. Donald Driver returning once again. Amazingly, Donald Driver will be the captain of the wide receivers. Greg Jennings is Greg Jennings. James Jones is James Jones. I mean, that's at least 3 very good wide receivers right there. You know, you can't really go wrong with that. Jermichael Finley, the numbers weren't spectacular all of last year. They were good at some times and not good at others, but again, a year older and wiser, a year older and better. We'll see how he turns out. It'll be fun to watch for Packer fans, not for us Viking fans. Packers, yep, they signed A.J. Hawk to a long extension. I mean, they kept the guys they needed to, and they're back. They're back. I'll just have to leave it as is. Green Bay Packers, the favorites to win the division, and could quite possibly go to the NFC Championship game and beyond. They could very definitely be right back in the NFC title game. As well, it's just how that is going to go. Okay, I'm going to make my predictions for the NFC North division. The Detroit Lions will be back in their usual position, 6-10, 7-9 record. Though they will scare some teams, they will score some points, they will play some good defense, but they won't have a winning record this year. 6-10, 7-9, maybe 8-8. Detroit Lions. It all depends on Matthew Stafford. Will he blow up? Will he not? Maybe. Maybe. But he has done absolutely he has done nothing for me to say that he will. So we're going to have to leave that as is. Detroit Lions will ride the pine in the NFC North. Chicago Bears, too inconsistent. Like I said earlier, they could be 6-10 and they could be 10-6, 8-8. Chicago Bears will be 8-8. So I might as well take the safe route and go in the middle. The Bears will be 8-8, 9-7. They will be obviously a threat to whoever they play. They will be a threat to whoever they play. It'll be interesting to see what happens to them. I mean, anything could happen to the Bears. They could be 12-4. Who knows? Jay Cutler blows up. All the big pieces play well. Marion Barber's a really huge boost for Matt Forte. We'll see what happens there. We really will. Chester Taylor lit a fire under Forte last year. Will Barber light even more of a fire and really add more of a goal line threat to the Bears? Hey, we'll see. But until then, I'm going to say they're 8-8. Second place is going to be Minnesota. Yep, I'll say the Minnesota Vikings finished second place. And yeah, some of you will say this is too optimistic. Some of you may even go as far as to say it's too pessimistic. The Minnesota Vikings will be 9-7 or 10-6. I'm going with 10-6 because an easier schedule. They have a fourth place schedule. They finished behind Detroit last year, folks. So I think Minnesota is 10-6 with and they will clinch a playoff berth. Where they go beyond that, who knows? But I think Donovan McNabb is good enough. Donovan McNabb, Adrian Peterson are good enough, along with the still very good defensive line with the Vikings. A young, improving safety duo, and I think it's a better safety duo than last year with Sanford and Abdullah. It's not great, it's unproven, but we'll see. Cedric Griffin and Chris Cook, can they stay healthy? I pray to God, yes. Antoine Winfield should be as solid as ever, but will this be the year he drops off? Cross your fingers and hope to God it isn't. And Mr. Raymond, who knows what will happen? He may end up becoming the safety of the future for this team. He may end up becoming a really good safety. Some people really like Mr. Raymond. We'll see. Maybe he'll emerge and become more than expected right away, early on. We'll see what happens. But Jamarcus Sanford, I think, can play in this league. Just stay away from E.J. Henderson, please, when you're trying to make a hard hit on somebody. Like, aim for the opponent this time. Okay? So, just not trying to make a punt or a shot. I just pray to God Sanford's a little bit more careful with his aim than he was, and busting up EJ's femur. That really sucked, actually. But yeah, 10-6. Minnesota 10-6. Green Bay 11-5 or 12-4. Even though they won the Super Bowl and will have a difficult schedule, they're going to be a very good football team. They are a very good football team. End of story. Green Bay Packers win the NFC North. I'm sorry, guys, but I got to be honest. I got to be objective. I got to give you what I got to give you. Viking fan first. Well, okay, NFL fan. I'm a Viking fan first and everything, but I got to be NFL objective coming in. I got to come in with my brain and my experience, not just my heart, okay? My heart is here. I want the Vikings to win, but I can't just sit here and guarantee a division championship 12-4 and a Super Bowl title. It'd be nice, but I can't do it. And I picked them to win it all last year, and they didn't come close. So we're just going to have to leave that as is. I picked them to win it all in 99, too. Well, how about I pick the Vikings to finish last place, and they go all the way and win it? Maybe I should do that. But no, they won't finish in last place. I think Donovan McNabb is too good for that. I really believe Donovan McNabb is going to have an extremely good football season. I mean, all signs are pointing to Donovan McNabb being excellent, and that's all there is to it there. So that will conclude my prediction for the NFC North. Green Bay first, Minnesota second, both of them in the postseason. Chicago probably not in the playoffs, but maybe high end, maybe. And Detroit not in the playoffs, last place, but dangerous. A spoiler for teams, and going into next year could be a playoff team. So that's going to conclude that. We are going to come back for the we're going to make a very brief preview of the San Diego Chargers game, and which, of course, is this Sunday. Yeah. And then I will conclude the entire show with my NFL previews, who will get to the conference championship games, and who will get to the Super Bowl, and who will win it. I will conclude the show with that. But we'll make a brief preview of San Diego right after this. We are back here on Purple Mafia episode number 93, which is a reminder, again, for iPod users and other MP3 players. Welcome back to the show. Welcome on board. It's a little bit of a long one, but it's a season preview. Of course, it's going to be long. You know, if you're surprised by that, you're not really smart. Okay, that wasn't the nicest thing to say, but it's honest. Well, the San Diego Superchargers will be hosting the Minnesota Vikings at 3:15 Central, 1:15 Pacific. The San Diego Chargers, hopefully more likely to be the new resident in the Los Angeles football stadium in the coming years. Though I would love to see the Chargers stay in San Diego. I think San Diego deserves a football team. I really, really love the name. I mean, if it's dealing with electricity or fish, I tend to like at least the name and logo of the team. You know, at least I like the name and logo. So, I like it. I like the name of the Chargers. I quietly always kind of like the Chargers. I don't love them, but I kind of like them. Especially in the LaDainian Tomlinson era, one of my all-time favorite running backs in the league. Phillip Rivers is always putting up good numbers. Gosh, Billy Volek's still there. Gotta like that. It's a good football team. It is. Like him or not, they're a good football team. Oh, remember the Vincent Jackson dream? He's going to be the wide receiver for the Vikings. Well, he's still with San Diego. Can you believe that? That's pretty crazy. Yep, Vincent Jackson still donning the Bolts. Yes, he is. And, well, he's going to be a threat for the Vikings coming in. San Diego Chargers always with the constant nag in the back in the beginning, and the nag in their ears every year. Well, the Chargers are slow starters. They're always slow starters. So that's one of the things the Vikings really should be worried about that, because the Chargers are probably going to want to do everything they can to kick somebody's butt to shut that whole talk up about how the Chargers always start slow. And yes, they do always start slow. Gosh, when I started watching football in 1992 at age 13, I remember the San Diego Chargers opening the season 0-4 and winning the division with an 11-5 record with the rookie coach of Bobby Ross at the time. I still remember that, folks. Yeah, Stan Humphries, Natron Means. Remember those guys? Yeah, I've been around that long. Yes, I have. Those guys are not very young people probably at this day and age, I don't think. Yeah, they're at minimum like in their upper 40s by now. Good times right there. Gosh, they have Quentin Jammer at cornerback. It's a good team. Oh, and remember Bob Sanders. Remember that safety Bob Sanders we talked about earlier? He's a San Diego Charger, a guy we would have liked to have on the Minnesota Vikings, a former Colt. He's a strong safety, a small guy but hits hard and gets it done. That's what he does. He's a good tackler. Can he stay healthy? Who knows? Nate Kading's still there. He is what he is. One of the better kickers in the league. Maybe not the best kicker in the league, but he's a pretty good player. San Diego Chargers, I've said their name way too many times. They got depth at every position, basically. Still a good football team. Very capable of obviously putting a number on the Vikings on the road. Leslie Frazier, though, is a coach that can absolutely that can surprise people. I mean, you go into Washington after getting drubbed by the Green Bay Packers in the Dome. You go into Washington, who wasn't a very good football team, but it's always hard to win there. They had a guy wearing number 5 at the time. Yeah, Donovan McNabb. And, of course, McNabb's looks a lot more sharp this year than he did last year. This game's tough to call. It just depends on what team comes out with the right fire, which team doesn't. Unfortunately, usually that would lean towards the home team in that category. Both teams have great running backs, potentially. Ryan Matthews did not blow up last year. No, he did not. Phillip Rivers, though, obviously more than capable of blowing up, and they have enough receivers on the roster to do that. Ryan Matthews' numbers last year, under 700 yards and got 7 touchdowns. Is he going to blow up for the Chargers? Who knows? But I like the Vikings' chances coming in. LaTroy Guion and Remy O'Doyle will be the main guys after Ryan Matthews. I think they can get it done. LaTroy Guion will make his first NFL start. Very excited for him. A guy who not only can get to the quarterback, but he's also He's also can get into the backfield to get the running back as well. Gosh, I really, really, really want to pick the Vikings to win this game. I really do, and I do think they can. The Chargers do have the reputation to lose early in the season. But on paper, you look at both teams. The Chargers are at home. They have the motivation to finally shut up all the critics about the early start. I'm forced to pick the Chargers at this point in time, and I'm going to go with a 28-24 victory for the San Diego Chargers, unfortunately, coming into Week 1. And this is no shot at the Minnesota Vikings. I think they'll be extremely competitive. I think they absolutely can win this game, but I don't think they will. I'm sorry to say. You have questionable health in the secondary. Of course, you have questions in general in the secondary. You have very large receivers who are very talented. You still have Malcolm Floyd, who is huge. You have Vincent Jackson, who is huge. You have Antonio Gates, who's still one of the best tight ends in all of football. The veteran Randy McMichael at the other tight end. Phillip Rivers, who's puts up numbers that are just ridiculous. Ryan Matthews. I don't think Ryan Matthews will be a factor in this game. I think it's going to be the passing game that'll win the game for the San Diego Chargers. Ryan Matthews, I have no reason to believe he's going to cut through the Minnesota Vikings in this coming weekend, whatever. I don't believe that. I don't believe Ryan Matthews is going to get much done against those two young linemen, the former Saints lineman and, of course, LaTroy Guyan. I don't believe that. The Vikings at linebacker position is very good. Chad Greenway, E.J. Henderson are awesome, and Aaron Henderson has a lot to prove. And I think Aaron Henderson will be excellent this season, by the way. I'm just throwing that out. But I just think this Charger team is a little bit too much for the Vikings coming into the season on the road like this. I mean, I can't come on the air right now and say the Vikings are going to go into San Diego and beat this team. I can't do it as much as I'd like to. I can't do it. I just think the Chargers are too much. I have to come out with that honest approach. So forgive me, fans out there, for that. Too many pieces on the San Diego Chargers at this point in time. I'm going to have to leave that as is. But the Vikings will make it one hell of a battle. There's no doubt about it. 28-24, San Diego, week 1. But I think the Vikings will make things more and more interesting as the season progresses. As I said, the Vikings will be 10-6, and that's with predicting a loss this Sunday. I do believe the Vikings will improve as the year progresses. I don't think they will come out. I don't think this will be their best game of the season Sunday. I highly doubt that. In fact, I actually honestly believe it will be on the lower threshold for what is to come for the Minnesota Vikings in 2011. So how about that for positivity? I honestly believe that too, as a veteran football analyst. So let's get to the final topic. Who will be in the NFC Championship game? Who will be in the AFC Championship game? I'll go to the AFC first since it's obviously not on our side. You know, it's tough. There's at least 4 teams over there that could very easily get to the NFC Championship game. There are at least 4. I'll name all 4 of them. New England, yeah, surprise, right? Pittsburgh, yep, surprise there too, right? Jets, and Baltimore. All 4 of those teams could easily not only get to the NFC Championship game, not only get to the Super Bowl, but win the Super Bowl. All 4 of those teams, I think, could win the Super Bowl, and yes, Baltimore could do that. Yes, I believe that Baltimore could win it all. They're capable of winning on the road, and a team that's capable of doing just that is more than capable is definitely a team that can win it. But I'm going to go with the conference finals of New England and New York. The New York Jets with their glitzy team, and the New England Patriots with their, again, glitzy team, even with the departure of Merriweather. I believe the New England Patriots and the New York Jets will square off in the AFC Championship game. Pittsburgh Steelers, well, they have all the ability to do whatever they want, but they are the cursed team that lost the Super Bowl. I think they'll get to the second round, but lose to one of these teams. I do believe that. Baltimore, I really, really, really like a lot, but I did not like the way things turned out for them in the second round last season. It was disappointing, to be honest. You know, I don't want to annoy people, but a team that had a great record last year that could not get it, that just for some reason could not get it done against the New York Jets. I think they do get it done against the New York Jets this time around. I'm going to go with that. It's just as easy to pick the New York Jets to go to the Super Bowl, but I'm going to pick the Patriots to go to the Super Bowl. I think they're finally going to get back to the Super Bowl. I think the New England Patriots will finally get there, and they will make things extremely interesting. I do believe that indeed. So now we're going to go over to the NFC before we talk about the Super Bowl. Obviously, we got to figure out who the Patriots will be playing. Hey, there are some talented teams over in the NFC as well. There are 4 teams that are just fantastic in the NFC. 4 teams that could, as like I said about the previous deal, could not only get to the conference finals, but not only get to the Super Bowl, but even win the darn thing. Despite what happened to them in the postseason last year, like Atlanta, which is going to be one of them, and New England. Atlanta, New Orleans, Green Bay, and Philadelphia. Surprised that I picked Philadelphia, right? Yeah, real surprised with all that glitzy lineup as well. Those are the 4 teams. But I'm going to go with, right now, well, it's not going to be the 2 teams that are playing tomorrow night, or tonight, whatever you want to say, depending on when this show is released, or yesterday. Shoot, Thursday, Green Bay and New Orleans will square off in a season opener. The 2 most recent Super Bowl champions of 2009 and 2010. You will see one of those 2 teams, though, in the NFC Championship game, and I'm going to go with the Green Bay Packers. Yeah, the Green Bay Packers will get to the NFC title game to try to defend a championship. They will try as they might, but unfortunately they will be on the road against the Philadelphia Eagles, and it will be too much. I think Philadelphia, with Michael Vick, in some ways I'm going on a limb, in some ways I'm not. I mean, something changed last year with Michael Vick as the year progressed, and it cost the Eagles dearly. But I've got a feeling, I can't believe that there won't be a day with Michael Vick in the Super Bowl as a Philadelphia Eagle, with the way he improved, with the way this team is built around him. And no, not because Ronnie Brown's on the roster, but because of a lot of other players that they have added and how good they already were last year. I think the Philadelphia Eagles will represent the NFC, the National Football Conference, in the Super Bowl in this coming season. Yes, I do. I think you will see a rematch of the 2004 Super Bowl, New England versus Philadelphia.
Oh, come on, man.
And I think the New England Patriots finally win another Super Bowl. I'm sorry to bore you fans with picking the Patriots again, but this team is too good for me to not believe they can't win a title. They can't win yet another title. I think they absolutely can, and in my mind, they absolutely will. The New England Patriots will finally get their 4th championship. It will finally happen this season, in my opinion. Chad Ochocinco being on that roster, Albert Hainsworth. Bill Belichick knows what he's doing, and he added these players for a reason. And when he adds big-name guys like that, they tend to blow up like Randy Moss did in 2007. Record numbers, ladies and gentlemen, for Randy Moss and Tom Brady. I don't think Ochocinco is going to break records, but I think he is a big addition. And the Patriots still have Deion Branch, who was Tom Brady's favorite receiver when they won championships. Albert Hainsworth. I think Bill Belichick is going to get to that son of a gun, and he's going to make them a very good football team this coming season. And I think they will be winning their fourth Super Bowl championship finally for that team. It's been a long wait for them. 2004 was quite a while ago, wasn't it? But I can't believe that Tom Brady will not win a 4th Super Bowl. I can't believe that. I can't believe Bill Belichick will not win a 4th Super Bowl. In the end, they will, in my opinion. So with that, we are going to conclude episode number 93 of Purple Mafia. Again, please do call into the phone lines. Excuse me for that. 209-736-7877. 209-736-7877. It is a voicemail. Do treat it as such. I miss hearing from you guys out there. Please do call in. Mention you're calling it for Purple Mafia, and then there you go. Comment, shout out, opine, whatever. There you go. It'll be great to have you on there. Don't forget about the message boards, the front page of the website. Simply click on the button that says TSS Boards. It's pretty obvious right in front of you. The page has a nice new sleek look. Congratulations, Dylan Richardson, on that. Good work. I hope you fans out there like it, and I hope you enjoy the website. Do join the message boards. Get on there and comment. That would be spectacular. Don't forget about the Facebook page for Purple Mafia. Facebook.com/Purple Mafia Show. Also, Twitter.com/Purple Mafia Show. Give that Twitter a follow. I tweet during games and during the week, but a lot during games. A lot more during games. And I will be doing that this Sunday against the San Diego Superchargers, who will not be in the Super Bowl. I would be quite surprised if they were. But again, as I mentioned, a tough team, a stacked team, and they'll be tough to beat in my opinion. So there you go. That's the contact details, and it's been a really fun season preview. It really has. It's been one of the longer Purple Mafia shows. I hope you've enjoyed it. I've tried to keep it as informative and fun as possible. I really wish Dylan Richardson was with me, though, and I'm just sorry that I didn't plan better than I did. But when you get a schedule like mine, it's hard to do that. And Dylan's schedule sometimes can be hard on him, too. And wish him the best always. I will get him on ASAP. I mean, this show needs to have somebody joining it. It can't be just me. I hope it's you callers out there as well. Got to have you on board. All right, guys, we will talk about hopefully a Vikings victory against San Diego in episode number 94. Until then, do take care and go Vikings.